Okay, so we are recording and I'm taking attendance. So please say here when you hear your name. So get ready to, when you hear your name, you want to unmute yourself. And if you could turn your camera on, that's even better. Here we go. Echinzona. Giselle. Giselle, I see your name. I don't hear you. Giselle, are you here?
Here.
Yes, thank you. So everybody get ready to unmute yourself. Soraya, you were the first one here. Yes. Pinar.
Here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Kayla.
Here.
Welcome. Sandra.
Yes, yeah.
Melissa.
Yes, I'm here.
I see two joining us. Okay, there's Echinzona. I see him. He just entered the way from the waiting room. Okay, great.
I am.
Sandra, I got you, Sandra. Minardi.
Okay.
Minardi. Looks like we're missing Minardi. Okay. Clefi. Amaryllis. Oh, I see you, Amaryllis. Fantastic. Great. Ronnie. No Ronnie at the moment. Okay. Daniela. No Daniela. Okay. Angie. No Angie. Karen.
Here.
Good morning. Okay.
Good morning.
Wesley.
Wesley, I'm here for sure.
Fantastic. Good morning, Wesley. Do we have a Sandy? Okay. Elisa.
Elisa?
Elisa.
Here.
Okay. Elisa is here.
Yes.
Raphael. Do not see Raphael. Joseph. Lady.
Here, teacher.
Good morning.
Good morning, teacher.
I see Namik right there. Good morning,
I am
Namik.
here. I am
Welcome.
here.
Wonderful. And I see Bilma. Bilma just arrived.
Good morning, teacher.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you all. And now we shall get started. Oh, two have just, there's Daniela. There's Daniela just in time.
Teacher,
Yes.
you hear good? Okay. Sometimes my computer not working good.
Say again, Bilma.
You listen me good? You
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning, Echinzona. No, I got you. I got you.
Okay, sir.
So I see Angie has just arrived, and I see, yep. And I see, who else was that? Someone on an iPhone. If you could change your name, that's good. Let's see who else is here. Okay. Raphael just arrived.
Hi, teacher.
Good morning. Good. There's Joseph. Okay, Joseph. Yes. Can you do me a favor? Just change your profile to your name, and then everybody's good. I see it there, so that's fantastic. Excellent.
Okay,
Beautiful.
I'm going on.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody, I'm going to share my screen and give you the agenda for today. Actually, I'm just going to close the door real quick. And here we go. Okay, so there is our agenda for today. If you like, you can take notes and write it down. Okay, here we go. All right, I see 3 messages in the chat. Oh, everybody's just saying hello. That's fine. Okay, everyone, good morning, morning. This is what we're gonna do today. We're gonna do a quick review of yesterday's lesson, particularly the new vocabulary words that we learned. We're gonna continue reading the short story, Rules of the Game. We'll get about 50% of the way through it. Then we'll have a quick breakout room discussion. Then we'll take our 10-minute break right in the middle. And then we'll do our next activity, which is a diaspora map. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, now I'm going to go over the features of Google Docs because I think some people had some issues with that, turning in the previous assignment. And for everybody who signed up to go on the boat trip this coming Thursday, I'll finish class reviewing what to do and how to get there. That is it. Any questions? No questions? Fantastic. Beautiful. So let's keep going. Okay. All right. So yesterday I showed you these two images and I asked the question, where do diaspora communities live in the Boston area? Now, who can recall what we learned from this discussion? Where do diaspora communities live in the Boston area? What were we talking about in class yesterday? I'll put the video panel on. I want to see if we can recall this lesson from yesterday.
Can I start, right?
Go for it, Namik. So we had an image on the left and an image on the right.
Your left picture is a Brazilian man.
Yes.
He protests for traffic, maybe.
Right. So protesting the traffic by making more traffic.
He is alone.
Who remembers a little more detail?
Just alone.
That's a good start, Namik. Very good start.
In her hand, he he have a Brazilian flag.
Correct. So he's a man holding up a
a
Brazilian flag standing in the middle of the street.
In her face, have maybe not happy, is proud maybe from her flag, but in is man is strong man.
Okay.
He's strong man. He's more energetic.
Okay, he's energetic, he's expressing himself, he's proud.
He's yes, expressive face.
Now, who can recall what we learned from the discussion? So this is a 24-hour recall. Only 24 hours passed since yesterday. Who can recall what we learned? What was happening in this moment? I think, oh, Elisa, I think
He's
just
blocking street.
we got, that's clear. That's obvious in the picture. Elisa, can you unmute yourself? We couldn't hear what you were saying.
I said is an election in Brazil.
Yes, there was a Brazilian election. And
A Brazilian election.
yes, every time there's an election, there's a presidential election in Brazil, how does that affect the city of Boston?
The
The
traffic.
diaspora protest.
Exactly, traffic, because you're gonna have because there is a, now who can use diaspora and the word community explaining?
Maybe teacher to one protest
Can I
for
say-
human rights.
Okay, Echinzona, what were you gonna say?
Okay. Brazilian community in Boston protests do protest anytime they have presidential election in Boston.
Good. So yes, the Brazilian community is very much affected in Boston, or as the city of Boston is very affected because Brazilian community makes up a very large diaspora in multiple parts of the greater Boston area. Where I live in Weymouth, the Allston Brighton area, many, even in northern suburbs like Natick. Whenever there is any type of political change, you're going to see an expression of people. So it's a cause and effect. One thing happens in one part of the world, and it will affect the city of Boston because Boston has a large diaspora community. Now, just a review of the word diaspora. Who recalls? Just had to mute you there, Chinzona. There's some static behind you. Who remembers the word diaspora? What does that mean? It's the same in
People
Spanish.
that live, people from one country living in another country.
Exactly. So it's a large, it's like a mobile population. So yes, people who've moved. So who moved from one country and settled in another. Namik, what were you going to say? Oh, you're muted, my friend. You want to unmute, hit the mute button, unmute yourself? The microphone.
Sorry, it's okay.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Diaspora as one group people that move from one country to one country, usually from poor country to rich country.
Mhm.
For more reasons, but important reasons is economic, is poor. Maybe sometimes in modern time have movie and for culture, for education.
Mhm. Certainly.
Okay, teacher, 1 second. The
Yeah.
classes doesn't end in the Zoom classes. Classes.
Clashy, let me see what's going on with Clashy.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, we are here.
Sometimes-
Is anybody, I'm gonna check and see if anybody's in the waiting room. Well, there's nobody in the waiting room. Yeah, Clashy can enter anytime. There's nobody in the waiting room. So she can try it again. Not a problem. All right, so yes, Namik gave some additional information.
Sometimes people movie and when if have crisis, example from
Exactly.
Middle East, or today from Ukraine.
Certainly, absolutely.
In our school, I has and in our school in El Centro have more students that are from Ukraine.
Certainly, yep. Exactly.
This person are I am okay, are a diaspora, but in her country maybe they live more live okay, but from war they moving from Russia, from Ukraine to America, to Germany, to and in all country that permit them for her reason, her life.
What I wrote at the top of the screen here is something that Namik is talking about. I'm gonna give you this phrase that will help you will help everybody explain what the ideas that Namik is talking about is that there are some you could say common denominators, something that different groups have in common when they move from one place to the other. Usually people don't change countries if they're perfectly thrilled and happy and comfortable with where they are. So there's usually some motivation. It could be for a job opportunity. It could be something serious like a war going on. It could be a number of reasons, but a phrase to capture what Namik is talking about, hang on Namik, is hang on Namik. It's patterns of migration. So when there are diasporic communities, now we're going to switch to the second photo here. When there are diasporic communities, they transform the cities where they arrive. One example, these are two photographs of one on the left, you have the Brazilian community of the greater Boston area stopping traffic after an election for depending on their political opinions. Some people protesting the results, some people happy with the results. And then you have another expression of a diaspora community in Revere. Who remembers from yesterday what's going on in this photo on the right? Who can recall this? So this is, yes, tell us. Go for it.
Is the celebration for winner in the soccer?
Yeah, who is celebrating?
Marruecos.
Yeah, Moroccans for the first time made it to the top 4 in the World Cup, and they went out in the streets right around Revere Beach and started celebrating. It was like all of Revere became this big Moroccan party, and that's another visual expression of a diaspora community showing their national pride. So the one on the left, it's kind of a anger and animosity, but using their political freedoms they have in the United States to to express themselves. And the one on the right, it's also using their political freedoms to celebrate, enjoy about the team doing well in the World Cup, even though they played pretty dirty. That's just my opinion about Morocco. But we also looked at this movement of remittances. That was a vocabulary word, where money goes with different diaspora communities. People who find work in one country often send money back to another country. There are places like the Philippines where a majority, not a majority, but I'd say a large part of the local economy depends on foreign remittances. It's expected that successful people will leave, find work in another country and send money back, and that keeps the local economy moving. Very much the case also with Cape Verde. A lot of Cape Verdean banks will advertise to foreign citizens living abroad. Hey, we know you're making money somewhere else. Don't forget to bring your money here and put your money in our bank. So that's also another characteristic of a diaspora community. And that was the foundation of how I introduced Amy Tan. So Amy Tan was a member of a large Chinese diaspora who arrived in America in 1949. And that's this image on the right-hand side. Who remembers what was happening in China in 1949? Who remembers? Now, I know Namik has the answer because he gave us the answer in class yesterday, but I want to see who remembers from class.
I think in China was a new government and put strong rules and the people go out.
That well, what you're explaining is, yes, there were many people who left China in 1940. That's yeah, go for it, Karen. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, lady.
Lady. For the communists leaving Europe.
Okay, say more. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. For the
Teacher.
communists. Yeah.
Well, keep going, lady. And then who was it? And then the next person.
They came here because for the rulers in their country.
People were unhappy with the leadership. Yes. So what's happening in this photograph is to make it more complicated is that, well, to make it more, I'd say, detailed, China had been experiencing a civil war for a very, very long time. It had gone through a lot of political changes. There was a nationalist party that had controlled China since 1911, and it was the Republic of China And then there was the Communist Party, which was aided by the then new Soviet Union. It started in 1927 and backed by Joseph Stalin, a leader named Mao Zedong took control of the country. And he made a lot of sweeping reforms that were copying, mimicking Soviet-style leadership. So collective ownership of land. So if you were a landowner in China, that means the government takes your house. This might sound familiar with the Cuban Revolution or the Korean Civil War, anything like this. So a lot of people left China for various reasons. They knew that this new government that was communist and very strict was not going to improve their lives. So another reason a lot of people left was religious freedom. So these are some indicators about the world that Amy Tan grew up in. If you're part of a diaspora leaving a country for political reasons, what are some of the values that Amy Tan would grow up with as a Chinese American? Would she be very supportive of the government in China or have a lot of anger for the government in China?
To have a lot of anger for the government of China.
Exactly. So that's one reason it's important to understand the context. So that this particular diaspora that left China in 1949 would have a lot of anger and a lot of bad feelings for the present political situation. So very often diaspora communities, you can tell because of the reasons they leave, some of the values that the kids grow up with. If they have particular feelings, particular resentment towards the leadership where they came from, that's going to shape the way they act, the way they raise the kids, and when they become citizens, the way they vote. So if you think a good example is, we have a large Venezuelan diaspora today in Boston, and people from Venezuela have a lot of similar animosity about governments that take control of people's lives. So that's a parallel of where Amy Tan grew up in. She grew up in a Chinese diaspora that was very religious because people in China could no longer be religious. She grew up in a Chinese diaspora that didn't like communism, very, very anti-government control, and that affected the way they voted. And that comes across in this story that we read, the values that she grew up with in this city, San Francisco, in the mid-1950s. So we saw this excerpt from the movie The Joy Luck Club, and we saw some of the cultural differences when one of the main characters, Waverly, brought home her American boyfriend. We don't have to play it again, but what was some of the comedy going on when Waverly brought her American boyfriend home? And you can tell this is an actress, but what were some of the cultural differences that the American boyfriend was experiencing? And you could see by this look on the mother's face. What did we see yesterday?
She's surprised.
Yeah, she's like, who is this strange man you've brought into our house?
He's danger inside.
Yeah, she's, and there's the look right there. So the young woman saying, okay, this is my boyfriend, I like him. She hasn't said anything about getting married yet. And you can see the mother's face says it all. So that he's doing everything wrong. He's fumbling with his chopsticks. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah.
Boring.
Exactly.
They have different manners, teacher.
Exactly. So yes, when you're an outsider coming into a diaspora community, you can easily make a lot of mistakes. He doesn't know what in the world he's doing, and everyone's looking at him like he's an alien, like he's come from another planet. Who is this strange man you've brought?
Probably don't agree with the relationship.
Exactly, exactly. Right away, they're just saying, this is not going to work out. This guy is never going to be part of the family. And he's a bit foolish. He thinks he's charming. He thinks he's doing everything right. And of course he's not. And then the joke at the end, he says, did you tell mom about the wedding? No, I didn't. She would rather get, I won't say what she said, but he thinks he did a great job introducing himself to the mother. And of course the opposite has happened. So that's the context in this story. But the chapter that we're reading is about Waverly's life as a chess player. So she becomes a very successful chess player early on, and it begins to affect the relationship that she has with her mother. So her mother is putting a lot of pressure on her to be the best. Her mother risked everything, sacrificed her life in China, and now started from zero in America. And she puts a lot of pressure on this young lady to do well and be the best. And we saw from these scenes that Waverly, this young lady, she doesn't like this pressure that her mother is putting on her. So what happens in the story, we're going to find out, and I'm going to introduce the next two writing assignments. I'm sorry, the next two assignments. A week from now, I'm going to give everybody what's called a literary analysis. Who knows what the word analysis is?
Analysis.
What does it mean to analyze something?
To make an opinion.
To make an opinion, and it's more than an opinion. It's also to summarize and to explain. So what we're going to start today, you're going to do more with Simone on Friday, is we're going to start analyzing sections of the story. We began doing this yesterday, and here are the instructions. Actually, would anybody like to read? Do we have a volunteer reader for these? Whoops. Volunteer reader to read the instructions?
Yeah, I can. Morning.
Go for it. Go for it. Is that Raphael?
Hello.
Hello, Raphael. Excellent. Okay,
hello.
I'm gonna highlight. I'm gonna highlight. You go ahead and read.
Okay.
So I'll actually underline right there. There you go.
Okay. In class, we are reading the short story Rules of the Game, featured in Amy Tang's novel, The Joy Luck Club.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Read each question and give a summary of each writing sample from the story. Remember to proofread your writing before turning it.
Good job. Now, this might be a new word. Who knows what it means to proofread? What does it mean to proofread?
It's like check again.
Yes, Raphael said check again. So oftentimes when you're writing in English, you can say, oh man, I'm using all my English. This is so hard. This is so hard. And then when you check the word count, you see those, you filled the paper with all these words and think, oh, I must be good. I must be finished. This must make perfect sense. And you just send it. And then the teacher reads it and it's a bunch of garbage. So what Raphael said is once you finish your writing, you read it, make some changes, read it again, and we have plenty of time. So in class with each other, can help each other out. And then once you are sure you are ready, then you submit it. So that's proofreading. And we're going to do this step by step with each one of the questions. So you're absolutely right. Good work. Okay, so I'll show you the document. When you open this up, and I said I was going to go over Google Docs. So what I have here is the worksheet, and I've got a sample, just a sample. So it starts out paragraphs 3 and 4. And below here, I have a question. So the question is, what does the reader learn about Waverly's neighborhood in paragraphs 3 and 4? This is what we read yesterday. So remember, yesterday we learned a few things from Waverly's neighborhood. This line in particular: from my bed, I would listen as my father got ready for work. Then he locked the door behind him. 1, 2, 3 clicks. What did we learn from Waverly about what do we learn about Waverly's neighborhood in that piece of writing?
We learned that the Waverly neighborhood is a little insecure, that has a market, and the market in this neighborhood is different than American culture markets.
Okay, good. Wesley is on to it. Good, because what Wesley's doing, he's analyzing. Remember, an analysis is analyzing what you read. So she describes the smells, the streets, the shops that make the neighborhood what it is.
The load.
Yep. Yep. And also,
Teacher, also, she was poor, don't have money, and they live in one alley. And
kids play in an
I
alley.
think
They don't live in an alley.
they over there no sure because the mom all time when she need to work, the door put
Locks. Yes, that's what Wesley was also saying. Exactly. Good job, Bilma. So yes. So we notice the kids are playing alone in an alley all day long. Do rich people's kids wander around the streets and play in an alley together?
No.
No, they'll be, they'll be, in dance class and, doing all kinds of structured activities. But what we learn is that she says, I never thought we were poor, but all these kids are running around unstructured, free range. They could easily get into trouble. Where are the parents? The parents are all working. So that's showing, not telling. The writer's doing a good job of really painting a picture. What's going on? Why are all these kids wandering the alleys, messing with the tourists? It's because both their parents are out working. Both parents are working all day, every day. And what else do we know? Wesley said that the neighborhood is a little bit insecure. They have 3 locks on their door. The father leaves the house and clicks 1, 2, 3. So this is beautiful detail the writer gives about the community. And you want to be able to describe that in your answer. We learn about the culture. We learn about the stores. We learn about the smells, the sights, the sounds. And we also learn about the social class of the people and where they're growing up. So
And a
all
little
of
different
that,
picture is that in a house can live thousands of people.
There you go. There you go. Yes, very often diaspora communities will you'll have that sounds like a El Centro student. you call a student and you hear 20 people in one room. Okay, hey, how you doing? So yes, very often diaspora communities will have, cousins, uncles, aunts, sisters, everybody living in a small space. So yes, this is a typical diaspora story in a diaspora community, but it's 70 years ago. It's 1950s San Francisco. Pretty different than San Francisco today. But this could easily be a neighborhood in Brockton, a neighborhood in Fall River with a different community today. So yes, this is what you can work with on Friday with Simone. So you can work on this writing assignment ahead of time for next week with Simone. Now we're going to go back to the story. We were reading yesterday, and I think we finished around paragraph 8. So if you see a gray bar on the right side of your screen, that is that's the video panel, so I can see your faces. And we're going to go into the beginning of the story. I think it was the second page we got to. So yep, there's the tourist messing with the kids messing with the tourist. And this one is particularly funny. Now, those of you with children, do you ever struggle finding a name for your kid? Do you want a traditional name, or do you want a name in English and not know exactly what to name the kid? People call me all the time saying, what's a good English name? The name Waverly is named after a street. It's a very famous street. Here it is. Okay. So, Soraya, would you read this paragraph I've circled right here? My mother named me after the street we lived on.
My mother named me after the street that we lived on, Waverly Place, Young, my official name for important American documents. But my family called me May May, little sister. I was the youngest, the only daughter. Each morning, before school, my mother would twist and yank on my thick black hair until she had formed 2 tightly wound pigtails. One day, as she struggled to weave her tooth head comb through my disobedient hair, I had a slide though.
Now, the reason she named her daughter Waverly was after the street they lived on. So all of a sudden she's got to get her registered for school. She has to get her name on all these American documents. What's a good English name? Can you imagine the mother looking out the window? What's the name of that street? Okay, let's just call her Waverly. There you go. And it is actually Chinese tradition within the family. If the kid's name is, if the kid's the older brother, you'd say Ge, little sister, you'd say Mei Mei. So that's why within the family, she's called Mei Mei, because that's just the tradition. But in the broader world, her English name is Waverly, and her mom gave her that name because it's the street they lived on. First English name she could think of. So, Soraya, would you like to keep reading, or you want to pass it on?
I'm keep reading.
Okay, great.
I asked her, Ma, what is Chinese torture? My mother shook her head. A bobby pin was wedged between her lips. She weighted her palm and smoothed the hair above my ear, then pushed the pin in so that it nicked sharply against my scalp. Who said this word? She asked without a trace of knowing how wicked it was being. I shrugged my shoulders and said, some boy in my class said Chinese people do Chinese torture.
So this is what's called ethnic stereotypes. Has anyone ever heard of anyone ever heard of these words?
It's like a fixed idea of something.
Well, the word stereo means two are the same. So like if you're listening to a stereo, 2 speakers. So an old-fashioned ethnic stereotype is that Chinese people can torture you. It's basically fiction, but it's an ethnic stereotype. So she's going to school, and the American kids look at her and they think, oh, she's Chinese, and they read comic books and they think that she's some kind of fantasy from a comic book and treat her like she's a character in the story. and she's receiving these ethnic stereotypes. This is essentially, when I grew up in the Boston area, there were a lot of ethnic stereotypes about Haitian people. So they were not treated very well when I was growing up in this area. A lot of ethnic stereotypes about different groups of people. But what you have here is the child is receiving strange information and then bringing it home to the mother. And the mother, remember, the mother, she doesn't really know a lot of English. So Waverly's growing up as an American kid, receiving ethnic stereotypes because she looks different, and she's bringing home a bunch of nonsense to her mother. So her mother just kind of makes up answers as she goes along. Keep reading, Soraya.
Chinese people do many things, she said simply. Chinese people do business, do medicine, do painting, not lazy like American people. We do torture, best torture.
Right. Yeah. This is kind of like, this is the sense of humor of Amy Tan. So Amy, and it's the diaspora story. She goes to school, receives, you know, this kind of subtle racism from her students, brings it home to her mom, who doesn't understand a whole lot of English, but she knows that she wants to instill these values of working hard into her daughter. Yes, we work hard. We do everything the best. That's all she's going to say to her daughter. Good work, Soraya.
Thank you.
Would you like to keep reading or pass it on?
I'm passing on.
Okay, now choose anybody you want. Now remember, the Chinese diaspora of the 1950s was very religious because religion was not allowed in China after 1949.
I'm choosing Minardi.
Minardi, go for it. Are you ready, Minardi?
Yes, I'm sorry, but I can't see the text.
Okay, I'll make it. You're on your phone, aren't you? Okay.
Yes.
All right, let me make it a
Good morning,
little bit
teacher.
bigger.
I have a question.
But I'm here, I can read.
Oh, wait. Can you see it
Oh,
now?
woman wants to read.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so follow me. It's this paragraph right here. My older brother, Vincent.
My older brother Benson was
teacher.
Okay.
Teacher.
My older brother Vincent was the one who actually got the chess set. Continue.
Yes, please.
We had gone to the annual Christmas party held at the First Chinese Baptist Church at the end of the society.
The alley.
Of the alley. The alley. The missionary ladies had put together a Santa bag of gifts donated by members of another church. Right? None of the gifts had names on them. There were separate socks for boys and girls, yeah, for boys and girls of different ages. One of the Chinese ages. One of the Chinese parishioners had done it. A Santa Claus costume and a stiff paper beard,
paper beard with cotton
with
balls.
cotton balls, glued onto it. I think the only children who thought he was the real thing were too young to know that Santa Claus was not Chinese. When my term came up, the Santa man asked me how old I was. I thought it was a trick question. I was 7 according to the American formula and 8 by the Chinese calendar. I said I was born on March 17th, 70th, 1951. 1951. That seemed to satisfy him. He then solemnly asked if I had been a very good girl this year, and did I believe in Jesus Christ and obey my parents. I
There
knew
we
the
go.
only answer. And I knew the only answer to that. I nod back with a cold solemnity.
So there's a lot of cultural and political information about the community here. So we know that it's a very religious neighborhood, and there's a Chinese guy dressed up as Santa. The older kids, why would the older kids doubt that a Chinese guy could be Santa Claus? For what? Maybe the younger kids, okay, but the older kids would say, no, that's not the real Santa.
Let's see. The other kids. Yeah.
I think the only children who thought he was the real thing were too young to know that Santa was not Chinese. So at this point, these older kids have already been given the information that Santa is this figure who's definitely a white person. So it's kind of this awkward moment. There's some cultural, political messages there, but also there's this incentive. If you get this person dressed as Santa, you have to say what you're supposed to. You have to say the right things. So this guy dressed up as Santa looks like he's just clowning around for the kids, but then he gets solemn means serious. Solemnly asked me if I'd been a good girl, and do I believe in Jesus Christ and obey my parents? That's a combination of the Judeo-Christian values, believe in Jesus, and the Chinese value of Confucianism, which is called filial piety, obey your parents. It's this it's getting pressure from two cultures. So what's the answer? Is she going to look at him and say, of course I don't believe in Jesus? Yeah, sometimes I do what my parents want. Is that what she's going to say? Or is she going to be politically savvy and say what she needs to say to get the gift from Santa? What does she have to say to get the gift from Santa?
Do you believe in Jesus?
Of course I do. Whatever you want, Santa. Of course I believe in Jesus. And yes, I do whatever my parents say. So she's at this age, this young lady Waverly, she's very savvy, like a politician. She knows what to say at the right time. Of course I do. Yeah, Jesus is great and my parents are always right. Of course. So she's getting it's like the Eastern culture and the Western culture are hammering these kids at the same time. They're getting it from two directions, which is exactly what happens in diaspora communities. They're getting pressure from two cultures at the same time, and they have to maneuver them both. So,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Please, 1 minute.
Yeah, go for it, Namik.
Yes. In this book, we learn for religion to Jesus Christ, but in my neighbor live one big community, big Chinese community.
Yeah, you're in Quincy. Yeah.
In this neighbor is temple, because more Chinese people believe or have religion, Buddha.
Correct.
Buddha.
Now, I'm going to give, that's why the date is important.
Country, and have maybe I learned that in Chinese have and Muslim people.
Well,
in sometimes area.
That's a good point.
Buddha is first.
Buddhism is the first. Buddhism is the first religion today. Now, this is because you live in Quincy. Quincy became a Chinese diaspora in the late 2000s. I live in Weymouth next door. I used to live in Quincy. That's a different diaspora than the people who arrived in 1949. The people who arrived in 1949 are very, very different than Chinese people who arrived in the last 10, 20 years. Totally different. Could not be more different. And I'll give you an example. Everybody right now, today, Quincy is the largest Chinese neighborhood
Yes.
in New England. Everybody look on Zillow and look for an average price of a house in Quincy right now.
Maybe in my building.
No. Look for an average price of a house right now in Quincy today. And you're going to see how different the diaspora community is today. Just go to Zillow and just look for Quincy.
Yes.
Average price for a house. Buy a house in Quincy. What are the amounts of money you're looking at?
In my building, have 100 families. From this number, 80% are Chinese people.
No, Namik, I'm asking you to look on your phone and look for the average price of a house in your neighborhood right now.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm asking. No, don't say you're sorry. Just look on your phone and look up the housing prices in Quincy.
Sorry.
Stop saying you're sorry. Just get on your phone and look up a housing price. Stop saying
The
you're sorry.
rent here it's up to $200 up to $2,000, and the whole price of the house is $6,100.
So this is what I'm asking everybody to do right now. So if you look up, here we go. Quincy, Mass, homes for sale. Okay. So Quincy, Mass, homes for sale. All right. So, okay, here's Zillow, and then there's Redfin. And okay, so we're looking in, if you're looking at, say, a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, you're looking in the upwards of $600,000. A decent, this is a 1-bedroom apartment for $300,000. Prices dropped a little bit last year.
Yes.
So now let's compare so this is where Chinese diaspora is today, and it's still moving. Now, tell me where another diaspora community is arriving today. Let's compare Cape Verdeans in Brockton. Brockton, Mass. If I'm looking at housing prices in Brockton, Mass, I could get the same for considerably cheaper. So this community that we're looking at in this book in the 1950s, they're totally different from a Chinese diaspora today. In what ways? The Chinese that come to America today are not in any way the same as the people who are coming in the 1950s. Who can tell me why? What are reasons people leave? In 1949, was China?
The people leave by the government, but because there was a lot of control of everything by communists.
Correct. Now, today, matter of fact, China is the second largest economy in the world, ahead of Japan, behind the United States. So
Chinese people come here for
business, teacher.
For business, to invest money, and largely an appeal is education.
Education, because in Harvard University have more students of China. And my daughter tell me, oh, my father, Chinese students are big. They more studied.
Exactly.
They are more correctly.
Well, no. This could be another ethnic stereotype, but this is the difference. Is the diaspora arriving to buy a house in, say, Lexington, Massachusetts, or Newton, Massachusetts, and get their kid into Harvard the same as a diaspora moving into a small apartment in 1949?
Yes.
Are they the same? They're the same?
No same, no same.
Totally
It's
different. Tell me.
a big difference.
Totally different. Exactly.
Yes, more
So
different.
that's why it's good to understand the context. So yes, if you're reading Joy Luck Club, if you're a member of a Chinese diaspora community today, you'll find that it's unrecognizable because China is not as tough a place to live as it used to be. It's actually quite nice. You can make a lot of money. You can live comfortably. You might not have the same political freedoms, but you can live a very good life and make a lot of money. That's the Chinese diaspora today. Come to America, buy an investment property, and get your kid into an elite school. That's not at all the diaspora community that Amy Tan grew up in. She grew up in a tougher, more scrambling diaspora community. Anyway, so that's why it's always always good to understand the context of the story you're looking at. But anyway, we're gonna have a we're actually over time, but I'm gonna ask a question. I'm gonna ask a question before we take a break. Okay, imagine everybody here is on a helicopter. And we look down